Welcome back. And I think one of the things that we're continuing to learn about is how we use social media in the hybrid church. And it is evolving. It was at one time something if we simply had a Facebook page or a website. But today we're discovering that alone is not enough. And Dave, I think you've really spent a fair amount of time with this.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. I think one of the things is there's a lot of platforms out there, and it's easy to get enamored and get an account. And my congregation has a Facebook account, a YouTube account, a Twitter account, an Instagram account. We don't have a TikTok account, but we don't use our Twitter account. It was too much. So you should only use what you can keep up with. And recognize that part of that's the audience that you're trying to connect with and reach. Facebook tends to be pretty adult now. The number of younger people that's on it has decreased percentage-wise, but baby boomers and some of the Gen X folks are heavily on. Of course, there's still millennials and high school kids on it, but in terms of Instagram has a younger audience. That's where you're going to probably connect more with young adults and with teenagers. And then just don't skip YouTube no matter what you do. If you're using Facebook Live, find a way to get your videos over, because YouTube is the largest searchable video platform. If somebody's looking for something and it's a video something, they're not going to go to Facebook and scan a bunch of different pages and read all those videos. They're going to go to a searchable database. They're going to go to YouTube and type in something, and it's going to happen. So, think about what you're using, but only use what you can keep up with. And by keep up with, I mean relate to. That's not even a weekly post. It's something much more meaningful than, whoops. So engagement's really the issue. And Richard, you were on this engagement seminar with Carrie Newhoff, and Nona was there. Talk about what you experienced and what you heard Nona saying.
Yeah, and one of the things that is really significant is early on we were saying, how many views did we have? How many people watched us? But now it really comes down to, how are people engaging with us? Are they communicating with us? Because it's not just enough for us to make a statement. Really, sometimes it's more useful for us to ask a question, see how people respond to us, but also how are people viewing us? What are they seeing? And really, are we having an impact with people?
Absolutely, and that's the key. So one of the things you have to do is figure out how to move from Sunday to Monday. And so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you're using, do something. This is an Instagram post and a Facebook post from 2 weeks ago. We're using the narrative lectionary, and I concluded my sermon with these words. One of the things we did is, our secretary's job now is, she's online on Sundays, and she is with our congregation's interactive person in the comment section. So, because we live stream, I can't be there because I'm on camera and streaming. So she's there, and part of her job now is every Sunday she welcomes people, makes comments. She listens to the sermon and jots things down, and then she pulls back up the video on Monday and pulls a quote out, and she puts a quote up and posts it. Different things. This just happens to be the one that posted not yesterday or this last week, but 2 weeks ago in our case. And then we've taught people to do things with it so that it goes up on Facebook and Instagram. And then what happens is people have to learn what to do with that. If we put that on our Facebook page and our Instagram page and our members see it, what should they do? So it's really important to equip people to do things. It's fine if your people are watching on, let's say, Facebook Live, but teach them to have a watch party and invite their friends. We've got some people. We had one guy, I was doing a thing and we did an attendance thing, and I said, tell us how many people are on with you today. And we had 1 person, 2 person, 3 people. So we could get a number of people who were watching on the screen, same screen. Guy in our church named Richard said, I'm having a watch party and I've got 43 people on my watch party. How do I report that? Isn't that cool? That one guy in our congregation had 43 people in a watch party because he'd invited a bunch of people to watch. And doing that became a vehicle for 43 people to be watching online together. Supply people with content that they can share. Put up a good meme, a good video. Make sure it's useful, that it's high quality, it's theologically intact, so that you're doing good teaching. As you know, the power of a meme is to become true in our culture. You can post a false quote on a meme over the face of the person that you're misquoting, and people will believe that that person said it. So there's huge power in this. So use those mediums carefully, but use them well. Design a meme and put a quote there. Teach people the difference between liking and sharing. If they like your stuff, they're stroking your ego. That's really nice. But if you really want them to be helpful and they think it's meaningful, tell them to share it. Put it on their page. That's how things go viral. Liking doesn't help you much. Sharing helps a lot. If you want you to get your church's message out, all your people going like, makes them feel involved. makes you feel like they like the stuff, but it isn't really helpful. So you have to teach people. The other thing is teach people to post what they're doing. So rather than you posting, there's a Bible study tonight on the Psalms online. Click here if you want to be involved. On Thursday morning, the day after the Bible study, have people post, hey, I was at the Psalms Bible study last night. We talked about this. And that way on their page, there's information about it. And people see that they're going to Bible study. Then next week they can post, hey, there's a Bible study. Remember the one I talked about last week, that next unit's here. If you'd like to come, click here, and they can share it. They can build relationships and information if they'll post what they're doing, not you post what the church is doing. So teach people. Equipping is so important. Remember, Facebook really started out as the Yellow Pages. We would post an event, we'd post information about the church dinner or Christmas Eve services, but now it's really about interacting with people. So ask questions, put something up. I would question every week. We're doing narrative lectionary this week. Is Hannah's song, the birth of Samuel. And so the question this week is, when was a time in your life when you experienced such joy that it simply overflowed? That's the question. So we're going to post that on Facebook this week. And then we're going to ask people to share when my child was born, or all these kind of different things, when I was doing this, the day I got married, or whatever it was I accomplished and things. So people are going to post these stories. It makes them come out of the woodworks. And then when you see somebody, if they're in a comment thing, one of the greatest things you can do is stop commenting back. So if somebody hits a comment, and you can go reply, 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 reply. If you get something, and especially a new person, don't reply. Or if you do reply, don't limit it to their reply. Click their name. It'll take you to their page, even if you're not their friend. Click message and send them a personal message, and move from a public conversation where now you're chatting in a foyer to a personal conversation where it's actually a one-to-one, and you can introduce yourself and say, hey, Jane Doe, I saw you commented on this, and I don't know you very well. I'm Dave, and I'm the pastor. I've been here a few years, and I'm really interested in this. And I'm interested in your story. I really thought that was an interesting comment you made. Can you tell me more? See if you can create a relationship. So constantly be thinking one directional, no, two directional, yes. And whatever you can do to cultivate that is very possible. The other thing that I find really helpful, and I've gotten 2 blog awards for my local congregation, and they've both been noticed because of traffic to the blog. And the way I generate traffic to the blog is I write a blog on the Sunday to follows sermon every Tuesday or Wednesday. I post it. And I put it up on the Narrative Lectionary site, because we use Narrative Lectionary. You could be on the Revised Common Lectionary site, post it there. Post an outline of your thematic stuff of your sermon in a well-written 4-paragraph article, and send it out to your congregation. And do it by posting it on your website and on your Facebook page or Instagram, whatever. And to read it, they've got to move from your Facebook page to click the link and read it on your website. It drives traffic to your website. Traffic to your website from outside links is the fastest way to move up a Google search. And if somebody's in your town, let's suppose you're in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and somebody moves to town and they want to find a church and they say church, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. You do not want to be on page 5 of that search. And if they're looking for a Lutheran one, maybe you can move up because there's only so many Lutheran, but most people aren't like that committed. They're just looking for churches. If you're on page 5, they're never going to see you. So find your way up. The easiest way is to be sure that if people are active on Facebook, you're driving them when possible to your website, because web traffic determines Google search rankings. So make sure it's up to date, make sure it's active, and make sure that if somebody comes to your website, there's engaging things. Be sure there's a contact thing. So if somebody comes, they can click and fill out that they were there. You can add them to your MailChimp or constant contact list, or however you do that, and work to get those things out. But this is something that takes some time and energy.
And it's worth, and I will add, one of the things that happened early on is when we were living into the season, I realized you could posts on Facebook. And so I did an experiment with my wife's church one week, and I said, well, what happens if I spend $8? So I did, and reached all sorts of people that we would have never reached. So the next week I said, let's do 10 and see what happens. And the next week, 12. And by the way, you could get carried away, and I never do, but I will add, it was an amazing thing, because I have had folks say to me, I appreciated the invitation. And I had to stop and say, invitation? And then I realized what they saw was that I had boosted a post. They responded, they showed up. And so you can really reach people, and it doesn't cost a lot. You'd mentioned the Yellow Pages earlier, Dave, and of course today people generally don't use them, but
even keep them.
and keep them. I mean, I've known people who use them.
Pages, recycle bin.
I've known folks who propped up furniture and sat on them while they drove their car, for height. But the beauty of this is if you think about how much we used to spend on a yellow page ad that was not interactive, that may or may not have been seen, you can spend a lot less money and have a huge impact. And this, the one church we were talking that you had lifted up, they've budgeted $15 a week for boosting posts. That's less than 800 a year.
They boost 3 posts a week for $5 a boost. There's 3 different posts, and then it's not a lot of money, and huge impact. And I think the thing to remember is just because something's free doesn't mean you should only use what's free.
And the great part of the boost is that you can also give some thought to it. Are we targeting a zip code? Are we targeting the friends of our friends? Who are we trying to reach?
Yep.
And you have all sorts of ways of having a focus and having an impact.
Yep.
And relatively little money, but it is worth investing.
I want to keep us on schedule here, Richard. And there's one thing I think that's very important to talk about with regard to social media, because it is so public. And I'd just like you to talk a little bit to leaders thinking about how they're online and what their public presence is about.
Yeah. And, there's the saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But I have to say, what happens on the internet does not stay on the internet.
No, it does. It goes away. It doesn't go away. In some ways, it stays.
Yes, it stays on the internet, but it goes beyond our original intended audience potentially. And so we really, as leaders in the church, we always want to say that if we are servants of the gospel, if we're representing Christ, that whatever we post is something that will help build up the body of Christ. So
we've seen leaders who said something and published something with the F word or something very derogatory about somebody, and they said, "Well, that was my personal page." No, actually, it was your public page.
Yeah, so it's always good to recognize that as we're public figures by virtue of the fact that we're online, that we use whatever we do online, whether personal or intentionally public, ministry or private, our personal site, that whatever it is, we're doing it for the sake of the gospel, that we're
so always ask the question, as I post this, is Christ pleased with what I'm saying? I just think it's worth always asking that question. Well, as we finish up here, Richard, on social media, I just want to encourage everybody to be intentional about this, to generate relationships, and it does take practice. And there are ways to learn. There are people doing entire courses on online engagement now that you can begin to learn from. Fresh Expressions, for example, right now is having a 6-week online engagement course that they're offering right as we're getting ready to do this. And you can watch for other things. So just know that there are ways to get better at this. And we all need to do this. Richard and I have been exploring this for a while. We're far from experts, but we actually have a new book coming out in November. You can go to day8strategies.com and order it. And the order's there. The book is at the layout printing phase. So it'll be out early November. It should be back from the printer well before November 15th. And the day it arrives, we'll start shipping the next day. You can enter workshop code, or coupon code rather, workshop. When you order, and you get 10% off that. And that's true for any books you order from there. Just type it in and it'll come off. And if you do a bulk order where you get 20% off anyway, type workshop in, you get 10% more off. It's about information and sharing, not so much about how much money we're going to make off of this. In fact, Richard, I think yours is going to the Synod's Mission Fund. Is that right?
Yeah, any profits that I might make off of this is going to go directly to our Synod's Mission Fund. And so we're reinvesting in the ministry of our synod.
So, we hope this is a helpful resource. It's something new. It's going to be incomplete by the time a year or two goes by. Everything we did, we'll have to do a revised edition because we'll have learned so much that we'll be embarrassed about the book. But right now, we're very proud of it and excited about the conversations it's going to generate. With that in mind, we're going to finish up with just that question. What conversations do you want to generate? We're going to pause and give you the same chance to reflect for just a few minutes on what caught your attention and said, aha, what we said about social media, what was engaging in a way that maybe challenged you, and some ideas that come to mind as you consider moving forward in the setting that you serve. And as we finish this section and pause, when we come back, we'll be off the synchronous viewing of a recording, and we'll be live streaming with a Q&A with you. So we're hoping that we can take advantage of what we've done during this recorded part of our time together to spend time interacting with you, hearing from you, learning from you, sharing ideas with you, answering questions, raising questions of our own. So thanks for being with us, Richard. I'll leave it to you to
And
say goodbye and finalize this as we prepare to transition.
yeah, and I'll just say thank you that we are a community together. We are learning together. And please know how much of a blessing that all of you are to us. So I do hope to see you back when we're doing Q&A. But more than anything, I just really want to always remember you how much we treasure and value the relationship we have together. So be blessed and be well and have joy in what you do.
Absolutely. And thanks for being with us. And we'll see you in the Q&A session in a few minutes. Bye-bye.